Today I'm going to take this thrift store find and combine it with these beautiful holiday plants and turn it into a Christmas gift for a friend. And I'll show you how to do it step by step. I found this little wire basket at a local thrift store, and when I noticed that it looks like a little shopping basket, I thought, how great would that be as a plant container? Now, it's not brand new, it has been used. There is some rust on it, so the first step is to remove the rust. And I'm going to do that with a little bit of vinegar. Vinegar is a great little chemical to help remove rust from metals. And it doesn't take much, and it doesn't take very long. But most of the rust is right on the bottom, so I'm just going to set it in there. It doesn't take much to get most of the rust removed. And you simply just dry it off. I've got a can of red gloss spray paint, and I'm headed outside to paint it bright. So my basket is painted red, and I'm going to line it with coconut mat. And I've actually used some glitter blast to put a little bit of a sparkle on the coconut mat. And I'm going to use that to line my basket to put my plants in. When you're thinking about transplanting a plant into a unique container to give away as a gift, you want to think about the soil very carefully. You don't want to use compost because that is a living ecosystem with insects and invertebrates and bacteria and all kinds of things living in it. You want to use a sterile soil. And for sterile soil, you need a potting mix. And so I have a potting mix that I have sifted to get all of the bigger particles out of it, and I also have some perlite. Now, the plant that I'm working with is commonly called a Christmas cactus. It's not actually a cactus, it's an epiphyte, which is a plant that gets its nutrients and moisture from the air. And it is a succulent. It does have the fat leaves that store moisture, and so we will treat it like a succulent. And if you slip it out of the pot, you can see that this is actually planted in peat moss. And peat moss is like a little sponge, and it holds a whole lot of water, and it's not a good idea to have peat moss in your as the only planting medium. So what I'm going to do is remove most of the peat moss, and I'm going to use a mixture of potting mix, 2 parts potting mix to 1 part perlite. Now, the Christmas cactus has very fine fibrous roots, and this is a pretty small root system, so you can see that the peat moss is falling away very easily, which is a good thing. This is a recently propagated plant with such a small root system, but it'll work well in the container that I'm going to put it in. And you want to get as much of the peat moss away from the soil as you can, because you don't want it holding moisture against the roots of the plant. And so I'm just soaking it just a little bit to get as much off as I can. And I'm going to do that with all 3 of the plants that I have. Now, I've chosen 3 different colors of blooms. There's a pale pink bloom, and a dark pink bloom, and a really smaller white bloom. So once I get this planted, there'll be 3 shades of colors coming out. There's a little known fact about this particular cactus. It is not the traditional Christmas cactus. With these leaf pads with the pointy claw-like features, this tells me that it is a Thanksgiving cactus. Now, the Thanksgiving cactus was a hybrid of the Christmas cactus, and it was developed specifically to be in bloom during the Thanksgiving season. They wanted to have buds on the plants when shoppers are shopping for their Christmas presents so that they would be more likely to buy the cactus. The original Christmas cactus is an heirloom species. It's not mass-produced. It's not available in stores. And you can tell that you have it if you have a leaf pad with a scalloped edge with no points on it. And the Christmas cactus buds out at the end of December and is in full bloom in January. Now the trick with a deep container is to make sure you get the soil packed in so that it doesn't sink underneath your plants. So I've spent a little bit of time getting the soil just right in the bottom of the container. And then you just very gently slip your little plant in and make sure it's sitting snugly in the soil. And this is the white one. Put it in the middle. It's going to need a little extra soil. And it always takes a little bit of work getting the soil situated around the plants. But you want their roots to be snugged up in the soil. You don't want to have air pockets in the roots. Now this plant is an epiphyte, but it does adapt really well in the soil. And as long as you treat it like a succulent and water it sparingly so that it's mostly dry, you can use a routine potting mix with it. There are many epiphytes that wouldn't survive at all in a potting mix because those roots just aren't really designed to soak up moisture. They're really more designed to support the plant and to anchor the plant. And then they take in their nutrients from their leaves. We treat it like a succulent and water it sparingly, but where it needs moisture is around the leaves. It's particularly important to use a humidifier or a mister with this plant because it is an epiphyte and it does take in moisture and nutrients through the leaves. It needs fertilizer during the spring and summer, and you would use a half-strength liquid fertilizer and spray it onto the plants during the spring and summer. And at the end of summer, you stop fertilizing it so that it will produce buds and bloom in the early winter. And so this is my Christmas gift of a Christmas cactus that's actually a Thanksgiving cactus. And I always give my plants with instructions. And so the instructions for this one would be to place it in a bright, sunny window and to water it sparingly and to always insert your finger into the soil and make sure that it's absolutely dry before you give it any water. Once the cactus has started to flush out in blooms, you're going to want to fertilize it once and then let it bloom throughout the season. And once the blooms fall off, the cactus will go into a period of rest and it will need less water and no fertilizer during that cooler season of rest. So I hope you've enjoyed my Christmas project, and I hope I've given you an idea for how you might give plants as Christmas gifts this season. If you've got a question, drop a comment below. And if you would like, let us know. If you want to subscribe, the button is there, and I will see you next time on The Handcrafted Garden.